Welcome to Silent Crime Case. In today's episode, we're uncovering a tragic story that started as a light-hearted prank, but spiraled into a devastating chain of events. Set in the quiet town of Guelph, Ontario, this story revolves around Rick Taylor, a beloved real estate agent with a penchant for humor and social media pranks. One prank, however, went too far. A forced haircut on his wife, Carly, led to public humiliation, building tensions, and eventually, Rick's untimely death. On the morning of January 15, 2009, Carly found Rick dead in their bathroom, seemingly electrocuted in a tragic accident. But as investigators looked deeper, cracks in the story began to appear. Was it really an accident? Did Carly's resentment over Rick's viral prank have a darker conclusion? Or could someone else have been involved? In this episode, we'll explore the events leading to Rick's mysterious death, the tensions brewing in his marriage, and how a seemingly innocent prank shattered lives. Stay with us as we unravel the chilling story behind Rick Taylor's death. Rick Taylor was known throughout Guelph as a charismatic and ambitious real estate agent who seemed to be living the perfect life. At 44 years old, he had built a successful business, was a dedicated father to two children, Nora and Wes, and had a loving wife, Carly, by his side. But beneath the surface, Rick harbored dreams of becoming something bigger, a social media star. He was always thinking of new pranks and ways to grow his audience, and his lively presence on social media earned him a solid following. Rick's pranks weren't just a fun hobby, they were becoming his obsession. He was constantly filming stunts, often without thinking about the impact they had on those around him. What he didn't realize was that his pranks, especially the viral forced haircut incident, were slowly eroding his marriage. Carly, a respected interior designer, had supported Rick's dreams for years, but the viral video was too much for her. Rick had held Carly down and shaved her hair while she screamed and pleaded with him to stop. He posted the video online, and while Rick's followers found it amusing, Carly's reputation and self-esteem took a severe hit. The prank not only embarrassed Carly, but also caused her to lose clients. As an interior designer, her professional image was paramount, and the viral video made her the subject of ridicule. The once strong marriage began to unravel, with Carly feeling more isolated, humiliated, and resentful of Rick's obsession with his online persona. Friends noticed the change in Carly's demeanor. Once supportive and loving, she had become withdrawn, angry, and distant. Carly Taylor, 36, was well known in Guelph's upscale community for her creative talents. Her designs were featured in high-end homes, and her business had flourished, but Rick's antics took their toll. Carly had always been the stable one in the relationship, focusing on raising their children and growing her business. She had even helped Rick in the early stages of his social media journey, offering suggestions and support. But after the forced haircut prank, Carly felt betrayed. She began questioning Rick's priorities and whether he valued his family or his online followers more. Their children, Nora and Wes, were caught in the middle of this growing rift. While Nora, at 12, was old enough to understand the tension between her parents, Wes, at 9, felt confused and anxious. The once joyful household was now clouded by constant arguments, emotional distance, and unresolved resentment. Nora confided in her friends that her parents were always fighting, and she feared what might happen next. Adding to this tension were Rick's parents, Thomas and Elizabeth Taylor, who lived nearby. They were frequent visitors to the Taylor home, and while they adored Rick's playful nature, they were concerned about how much time he was spending on social media. Thomas had warned Rick several times to focus on his family, especially after the haircut prank. But Rick, blinded by his online success, shrugged off his father's concerns. Even Rick's younger brother Timothy, who lived in Toronto, had noticed the shift in Rick's behavior. Though their relationship had always been somewhat distant, Timothy had been one of Rick's confidants, especially when it came to Rick's dreams of fame. Timothy had advised Rick to balance his family life and social media, but Rick was caught up in the pursuit of online stardom. Timothy had become increasingly worried that Rick's ambitions were consuming him. Rick's growing obsession was evident to many, even his colleagues in real estate. His business partner, Mike, had expressed concern over how Rick's pranks and antics were beginning to interfere with their work. Clients had begun to notice Rick's distracted attitude, and some even reconsidered doing business with him after seeing his viral content. Mike, a serious and business-minded man, found Rick's pranks amusing at first, but he soon grew tired of the constant disruptions. Behind the scenes, Mike had considered ending their partnership, frustrated that Rick seemed more focused on his online fame than the real estate empire they had built together. As tensions between Rick and Carly continued to escalate, The once picture-perfect life the Taylors had built was now on the brink of collapse. The morning of January 15, 2009 was a cold, gray day in Guelph. Snow blanketed the ground, and the quiet stillness outside contrasted sharply with the chaos that was about to unfold inside the Taylor household. Carly had gone to bed the previous night after a heated argument with Rick. She had slept alone in their bedroom while Rick stayed in the guest room, as he often did after their more intense arguments. At around 7 a.m., Carly woke up and went to check on Rick. She knocked on the door of the guest room but received no answer. Feeling a sense of dread, Carly walked into their shared bathroom where she found Rick lying in the bathtub. He was naked, and a hairdryer floated in the water next to him. The scene was one of utter devastation. Carly screamed and immediately called 911, her voice shaking as she tried to explain what had happened. "Please, you have to help my husband. He's not breathing. There's a hairdryer. He's been electrocuted." Officer Alan Carter was the first to arrive on the scene. He found Carly sitting on the floor outside the bathroom, crying uncontrollably. As Carter entered the bathroom, the first thing that struck him was the unnerving silence. The water in the bathtub was still, and the hairdryer floated lifelessly beside Rick's body. But something didn't seem right. The bathroom floor was dry. If Rick had been electrocuted, the water should have splashed onto the floor, especially if he had been struggling. Carter immediately radioed for backup and called in Detective Collie McKinney, a respected investigator with the Guelph Police Department. McKinney was known for her keen eye and methodical approach to solving cases. When she arrived, McKinney carefully assessed the scene, noting the pristine condition of the bathroom. Aside from the still water in Rick's body, the room appeared almost untouched. As Carly sobbed in the hallway, McKinney asked her to recount what had happened. Carly explained that she had woken up, went to check on Rick, and found him in the bathtub. She insisted that Rick's death was a tragic accident, possibly the result of another prank gone wrong. Rick had always pushed boundaries with his pranks, and Carly speculated that he might have been attempting something risky for his social media followers. But McKinney wasn't so sure. Something about the scene didn't add up. The dry floor, the position of the hairdryer, and the fact that there were no visible signs of a struggle raised her suspicions. McKinney decided to dig deeper into Rick and Carly's lives to uncover what might have led to this seemingly accidental death. As Detective McKinney and her team began their investigation, they quickly realized that there was more to Rick's death than met the eye. The dry bathroom floor remained a major red flag. If Rick had accidentally knocked the hairdryer into the bathtub, there should have been water splashed across the floor. The condition of the scene raised the possibility that it had been staged to look like an accident. The forensic team meticulously documented the bathroom, taking photographs of Rick's body, the hairdryer, and the surrounding area. They collected fingerprints, analyzed the electrical outlet, and tested the hairdryer to see if it had malfunctioned. But all the evidence suggested that the hairdryer was in perfect working condition, ruling out the possibility of a mechanical failure. Carly was brought in for further questioning. She was visibly shaken, but Detective McKinney pressed her for more details. Carly reiterated that Rick had often pulled dangerous pranks, and she speculated that this might have been another one gone wrong. But as the conversation continued, McKinney sensed that Carly was holding something back. Carly admitted that their marriage had been under strain for months. She shared how humiliated she felt after the forced haircut prank, explaining that Rick's obsession with social media had taken a toll on their relationship. Carly described how she had lost clients due to the viral video, and that she felt her personal and professional life was falling apart. However, despite the strain, Carly insisted she had nothing to do with Rick's death. McKinney's suspicions deepened when she discovered that Carly had been researching divorce lawyers just days before Rick's death. Though Carly claimed she had not followed through, the detective couldn't shake the feeling that the timing was too coincidental. Was this merely an unfortunate accident, or had Carly reached her breaking point? As the investigation continued, McKinney and her team began interviewing Rick's close friends and colleagues. Several of them mentioned how Rick's behavior had become more erratic in the weeks leading up to his death. He had been fixated on planning more extreme pranks and growing his online presence. His longtime business partner, Mike, expressed concern about Rick's priorities shifting away from his career. Mike had noticed Rick's increasing preoccupation with his online fame and how it had begun to interfere with their business. Neighbors also confirmed that they had heard heated arguments between Rick and Carly on multiple occasions, particularly the night before Rick's death. One neighbor, who lived just a few houses away, recounted hearing yelling and crying, though they couldn't make out the specifics of the argument. While Carly's story raised red flags, McKinney still needed hard evidence to back up her theory. The forensic team continued to analyze the scene meticulously. One of the most significant discoveries came from the hairdryer itself. Although it was still functional, the forensic analysis revealed faint fingerprints that did not match either Rick's or Carly's prints. This suggested that a third person may have handled the device before Rick's death. As Detective McKinney and her team began their investigation, they quickly realized that there was more to Rick's death than met the eye. The dry bathroom floor remained a major red flag. If Rick had accidentally knocked the hairdryer into the bathtub, there should have been water splashed across the floor. The condition of the scene raised the possibility that it had been staged to look like an accident. The forensic team meticulously documented the bathroom, taking photographs of Rick's body, the hairdryer, and the surrounding area. They collected fingerprints, analyzed the electrical outlet, and tested the hairdryer to see if it had malfunctioned. But all the evidence suggested that the hairdryer was in perfect working condition, ruling out the possibility of a mechanical failure. Carly was brought in for further questioning. She was visibly shaken, but Detective McKinney pressed her for more details. Carly reiterated that Rick had often pulled dangerous pranks, and she speculated that this might have been another one gone wrong. But as the conversation continued, McKinney sensed that Carly was holding something back. Carly admitted that their marriage had been under strain for months. She shared how humiliated she felt after the forced haircut prank, explaining that Rick's obsession with social media had taken a toll on their relationship. Carly described how she had lost clients due to the viral video, and that she felt her personal and professional life was falling apart. However, despite the strain, Carly insisted she had nothing to do with Rick's death. McKinney's suspicions deepened when she discovered that Carly had been researching divorce lawyers just days before Rick's death. Though Carly claimed she had not followed through, the detective couldn't shake the feeling that the timing was too coincidental. Was this merely an unfortunate accident, or had Carly reached her breaking point? As the investigation continued, McKinney and her team began interviewing Rick's close friends and colleagues. Several of them mentioned how Rick's behavior had become more erratic in the weeks leading up to his death. He had been fixated on planning more extreme pranks and growing his online presence. His longtime business partner, Mike, expressed concern about Rick's priorities shifting away from his career. Mike had noticed Rick's increasing preoccupation with his online fame and how it had begun to interfere with their business. Neighbors also confirmed that they had heard heated arguments between Rick and Carly on multiple occasions, particularly the night before Rick's death. One neighbor, who lived just a few houses away, recounted hearing yelling and crying, though they couldn't make out the specifics of the argument. While Carly's story raised red flags, McKinney still needed hard evidence to back up her theory. The forensic team continued to analyze the scene meticulously. One of the most significant discoveries came from the hairdryer itself. Although it was still functional, the forensic analysis revealed faint fingerprints that did not match either Rick's or Carly's prints. This suggested that a third person may have handled the device before Rick's death. This discovery shifted the investigation in a new direction. Who had been in the house on the night of Rick's death? The team began investigating Rick's social circle, and that's when they stumbled upon a shocking revelation. Rick had been having an affair with Emily Harris, his social media manager. Emily, a 22-year-old woman with aspirations of building a career in digital marketing, had worked closely with Rick on his social media content. Over time, their relationship had turned romantic, although Rick had kept it a secret from Carly. When Emily was brought in for questioning, she admitted to the affair but denied any involvement in Rick's death. She claimed she had last seen Rick 2 days before the incident and had been home at the time of his death. However, further digging into Emily's background revealed that she had been frustrated with Rick's refusal to leave Carly. Emails and text messages between Rick and Emily showed that Emily had pressured Rick to end his marriage so they could be together openly. The investigation revealed that Emily had visited Rick's home several times when Carly wasn't around. Detective McKinney now had 2 prime suspects, Carly and Emily. While Carly had a clear motive due to the humiliation and strain caused by Rick's pranks, Emily had her own reasons for wanting Rick's wife out of the picture. The forensic team found further damning evidence when they analyzed Rick's phone records. A text message exchange on the night of Rick's death showed that Emily had reached out to Rick, asking him to meet her. The investigation took a dramatic turn when McKinney's team uncovered surveillance footage from a nearby neighbor's security camera. The footage showed a car matching Emily's parked near Rick and Carly's home on the night of the incident. Although the footage wasn't conclusive enough to place Emily at the scene during Rick's death, it added more weight to McKinney's growing suspicion that Emily may have been involved in some way. The investigation continued to build momentum, and McKinney knew that they were getting closer to uncovering the truth. With both Carly and Emily under suspicion, McKinney needed to piece together the events leading up to Rick's death. Tensions rose as both women maintained their innocence, but the mounting evidence suggested that one or both of them had played a part in Rick's tragic end. The turning point came when Emily, under the weight of mounting pressure, broke down during a second round of questioning. She admitted to visiting Rick's home the night before his death, but she insisted that she had not killed him. According to Emily, she had gone to confront Rick about his reluctance to leave Carly. They argued, but she left before anything else happened, or so she claimed. However, with the fingerprint evidence, text messages, and security footage, Emily's alibi quickly fell apart. In a tearful confession, she finally admitted to tampering with the hairdryer after Rick had fallen into the bathtub. Emily confessed that she had found Rick unconscious after their argument. In a panic, she saw the opportunity to make it look like an accident, plugging in the hairdryer and dropping it into the water to make it appear as though Rick had electrocuted himself during a prank gone wrong. Emily's confession shocked everyone, including Carly. While Carly had suspected that Rick's death might have been deliberate, she had never imagined that Emily, the woman working closely with her husband, had been involved. The trial that followed was one of the most talked about cases in Guelph's recent history. Emily Harris was charged with second-degree murder for her role in staging Rick's death. The prosecution presented the damning evidence of Emily's fingerprints on the hairdryer, the security footage placing her near the scene, and her text messages pressuring Rick to leave Carly. Emily's tearful confession was the final nail in the coffin, as she admitted to staging the scene in a panic, hoping to cover up what had happened. During the trial, Carly sat quietly in the courtroom, listening as the details of Rick's affair and Emily's betrayal were revealed. The emotional toll of the trial weighed heavily on her, but Carly knew that justice had to be served. Rick's family, including his parents Thomas and Elizabeth, also attended every day of the trial, seeking closure for their son's untimely death. The defense tried to paint Emily as a woman driven by desperation, claiming that she had acted impulsively in a moment of panic. However, the jury was unconvinced. After 3 days of deliberation, they returned with a guilty verdict. Emily was sentenced to 25 years in prison for her role in Rick's death. As the verdict was read, the courtroom was filled with a mix of emotions. Carly, while still grieving the loss of her husband, felt a sense of relief that justice had been served. Rick's parents were heartbroken, knowing that their son's life had been cut short by a tragic and unnecessary series of events. The trial not only revealed the shocking personal details of Rick Taylor's life, but also raised questions about the nature of justice in cases complicated by emotional manipulation and psychological distress. Emily's 25-year sentence was seen by some as lenient, while others felt it was fair given the circumstances. The defense had argued that Emily's actions, though reprehensible, were the result of a breakdown caused by Rick's manipulation and her desperation for validation. In the end, the legal system handed down a verdict that reflected the complexities of the case, punishing Emily for her crime, but acknowledging that her motives were born out of emotional instability. For the community of Guelph, the case served as a stark reminder of how fragile the line between love and obsession can be, and how the pursuit of fame and validation can twist even the most innocent relationships into something dangerous. The trial's conclusion brought a sense of closure to the community of Guelph, but the emotional scars left by Rick's death would take much longer to heal. Rick Taylor had been a beloved figure in the town, and his sudden death left a void that many struggled to fill. Friends and family were left grappling with the reality of how a seemingly innocent prank had spiraled into such a dark and tragic outcome. Carly, who had been cleared of any involvement in Rick's death, decided to leave Guelph and start fresh. She moved to Toronto with her children, Nora and Wes, seeking to rebuild her life away from the painful memories of her husband's betrayal and death. Though she had been vindicated, Carly knew that the trauma of what had happened would never fully leave her. Emily Harris, now serving her sentence, expressed deep remorse for her actions during her time in prison. Emily Harris, now in prison, faced the reality of her choices every day. Behind bars, she found herself stripped of the attention and validation she had once sought so desperately through Rick and his social media fame. In her isolation, Emily began to reflect on the series of events that had led her to this point. She expressed deep regret in several letters, not just to Rick's family but also to Carly. She admitted that in her quest for love and recognition, she had lost sight of who she was, allowing jealousy and obsession to cloud her judgment. Emily's years in prison would be spent confronting the devastating consequences of her actions. She joined prison counseling programs and dedicated herself to helping others avoid the destructive paths that had led her there. However, no amount of remorse could undo the damage done, and Emily's legacy was forever tied to the tragic death of Rick Taylor. In a letter to Rick's family, she apologized for the pain she had caused, though it did little to ease the suffering of those affected by Rick's death. Rick's parents, Thomas and Elizabeth, remained in Guelph, trying to carry on with their lives while mourning the loss of their son. They established a foundation in Rick's name, promoting responsible social media use and cautioning against the dangers of reckless pranks. The town of Guelph was forever changed by the events surrounding Rick's death. It served as a sobering reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control, even when the intentions behind an action seem harmless. For Rick's friends, family, and the community, the lessons learned from this tragic case would linger for years to come. As Carly settled into her new life in Toronto, the emotional weight of Rick's death lingered. Every milestone her children reached was bittersweet, a reminder that Rick was no longer there to share in those moments. Nora struggled with trust and relationships, the trauma of her father's death and the public scandal leaving a lasting mark on her teenage years. Wes, younger and more resilient, channeled his pain into school and sports, but Carly could still see the shadow of grief in his quiet moments. Carly herself carried the heavy burden of guilt and relief in equal measure. Guilt that she hadn't been able to save her marriage, and relief that the nightmare was finally over. Her love for Rick had been real, but so was the damage his actions had caused. Moving forward felt like a daily challenge, but for the sake of her children, Carly remained determined to build a new life from the ashes of their tragedy. As we conclude this tragic story, it's important to remember the lessons we've learned. Social media can be a powerful tool for connection, but it can also distort our relationships and lead us down dangerous paths if we aren't careful. If you or someone you know is struggling with the pressures of social media, fame, or emotional manipulation, don't hesitate to reach out for help. In memory of Rick Taylor and the lives that were changed forever, let's make sure we use our online platforms responsibly, with care and empathy for those around us. This case serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly a seemingly harmless prank can spiral into tragedy. Rick Taylor's playful nature and Carly's emotional turmoil led to an unthinkable series of events that forever changed the lives of those involved. In the end, it wasn't a crime of passion or revenge, but a tragic accident that took Rick's life, further complicated by betrayal and deceit. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Silent Crime Case. If you have thoughts about this case or have a story of your own that you'd like us to investigate, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on more real-life murder mysteries. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant, true crime case solvers.